Hello everyone and welcome to my new YouTube channel. Well, at least it may be a new YouTube channel. We'll wait and see. I plan on making a new YouTube channel called Alabama Sling because my plan is that I'm going to build the Aircraft Factory Sling TSi. It's a design that originated in South Africa. The kit's still manufactured there, shipped over to the United States. I'll talk more about the design of it here shortly. So how did I get to this point? Well, ever since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to be a pilot. So it always seemed like an unattainable thing when I was younger. It took me 20 years to get through college. I made a few other bad life choices along the way, and got quite a few impediments to get there. So fast forward, I'm 58 years old. I just got my pilot's license 2 years ago. I'm trying to get to be I need a shirt that says the world's okayest pilot because I'm an okay pilot. Not great, not terrible. But I'm looking around and I'm belong to a flying club. Flying club's excellent. They keep a number of airplanes in the air in an economical manner. An affordable manner, so people can actually afford to use them. But the problem is in a flying club, all right, there's many people that are on the scheduler for this. The planes are all necessarily older with lots of hours on them. They've been used as trainers their whole lives, or most of them have. So there's a lot of issues with them. Trying to get a plane, like this morning, I went out to just go practice touch and goes. Right, I'm just trying to get a little more practice before I go on my trip that I'm going to talk next week. Next weekend I'm going to talk about. All right, so I get in one of the airplanes. Everything seems to be okay. It is what it is. They finally got the radios fixed in it. The radios have been unusable for months, so they finally got those working great. Yay! So I get in the thing. I'm all happy. Taxi out to the taxiway and do my run up. Right mag's fine. Left mag, it's running on 2 cylinders. Drops several hundred RPM. Obviously this thing ain't gonna fly. I tried leaning it out for a while and running it and whatever. Nothing worked. So I finally had to give up. Go taxi out since I was already out on the taxiway. I had to wait till the runway was clear, taxi out on the runway, turn around, go back, get another airplane. Another airplane was trying to get out when I was trying to get in, and So anyway, that was all stressful. I find another aircraft. Luckily, they had one on schedule today. Hardly anybody was flying for some reason, even though the weather was beautiful. So I, got another plane, whatever, and I got it done. It just took a lot more work and took a lot longer than I was expecting. But the point is there was somebody else on the schedule right after me, So I had it for 3 hours, and then there was somebody else, and it's going to be it's got on schedule for Monday, and whatever, etc., etc. You have to schedule the planes 60 days in advance if you want to keep them overnight, and even when you do put them on the schedule, it's always just for a few hours. There's only one trip one long distance cross country that I've actually successfully done. Took my wife and father-in-law to go visit their granddaughter, but then I couldn't go back and pick them up because the weather was crap for 3 days, and the day I had scheduled to get the plane, I had done it 2 months out, and well, too bad, if I had to move it 2 days later, it wasn't going to happen because I couldn't keep the airplane that long. So it's just really aggravating. So I've been thinking about, I really need my own plane. I love to go places. I love to travel. I mean, I'd spend my whole life just traveling if I could get away with that. So that's one reason I want to learn to be a pilot, so I could actually go places in a day and come back in a day. All right, but trying to schedule it around these planes that are already all in use all the time it's virtually impossible. So I've been looking around for my own plane and looking around. Unfortunately, I don't have $750,000 to go buy a brand new Cirrus or a brand new 172 or whatever, brand new Bonanza, whatever there is on the market. and I don't have $250,000 to buy a worn out Cirrus. I don't really want a 172. That's what I fly mostly at the flying club. I'm not that fond of that airplane. Nothing wrong with it, but it's just basically a trainer. It's not really a cross-country plane. Doesn't have that much weight capacity. It's not that fast. It was built for a safety factor, not for a cross-country tour. All right, so I'm looking around for something that I can actually go somewhere in, right? And I'm looking. You know, obviously there's no Cessnas that interest me at all. Because by the time you get to one that's fast enough, it's going to use a lot of fuel and have, you know, high maintenance. So I'm looking at, you know, Pipers and Bonanzas and Moonies and whatever. So I finally decided, okay, looks like the only thing that's going to at least somewhat economical to own and that is pretty fast is an older Moonie. I like Moonies. I think the whole premise of them is cool. They're awesome planes. I think they're great. And so I've been looking around for an old Mooney. You know, looking around. All right, so you get to the point where, yeah, I can afford an older Mooney, but it's going to be one with, you know, the engine that's one that sat around for 10 or 15 years on the same engine. There's no telling what kind of the internals of the engine actually look like. You know, you can bore scope it and see the inside of the cylinders, but the rest of it, you don't know, the camshaft and the rest of it. So the engine would just be a big iffy. The only way I feel comfortable is just buying one played out engine and putting a new engine in it. And then, you know, one that I could, you know, one that would be affordable has just, you know, 70 or 80s avionics or 60s avionics in it even. So, you know, all that stuff would have to go. I really want the modern electronics and how all that works. So I'm going to have to buy a $60,000, $70,000 Mooney and then end up having $150,000 in it by the time I get done with it to make it like I would want to. All right, so then I've still got a 50 or 60-year-old airplane. You know, maybe I could get an 80s model and, you know, be a 40-year-old airplane, but that would be about as new as it is. And of course, it's going to have things just wear out and problems with it, and, you know, obviously the paint and interior and all this stuff's going to require, you know, they're not going to be not that nice, and, you know, so I'm just kind of got disgusted. And, you know, I played with the idea of building an airplane before, but I don't know, the only thing that's a, you know, real practical travel airplane that you can buy as a kit, it seemed to me, was a Lancer, which, you know, that's, by the time you get done with one of those, $500,000. I don't have that kind of money. The only other thing would be a Vans, and don't get me wrong, Vans is a great company, makes some great kits. I think a lot of people are very, very happy with it. In fact, my flight instructor, he's building a Vans. I think he's going to have an awesome airplane when he gets done. But, again, there's no technology in those things, man. They're just a riveted together aluminum thing, just like the 30-year-old Cessna I was, or that was a 52-year-old Cessna I was flying earlier today. Still got the same Lycoming engine in it. The design dates back to the 1930s. And I suppose most people would put a more modern panel in it. But I'd still have that old engine in there and the old technology, and I'm just not really happy with that. I don't want an engine that was designed in the 1930s. You know, I want something a little more advanced. I don't want, you know, if I buy an older Mooney, it's going to come with radios and all this stuff that's 40, 50 years old. I have to replace all that. And if I built a Vans, you know, and the only four-place one's the RV10. You got to have a 6-cylinder engine, you know, burns 15 gallons an hour. And, you know, it's a nice plane, but it's just not something I ever got excited about. You know, the more I looked into it, just, you know, you know, yeah, it'd be really cool if somebody gave me one, or I could buy one for a cheap price, but I don't really want to put blood, sweat, and tears into building one. It's just not that awesome to me. All right, so I'm watching YouTube, you know, just frustrated, trying to come up with some better ideas, you know. And I see this thing about this guy built a thing called a Sling TSi, and I'm like, okay, what the heck is that? That thing looks awesome. It looks really cool. And, you know, he didn't seem like he was he wasn't an airplane mechanic or anything like that. And he said he had thought about building an airplane for years, but until the Sling TSi came out, there was nothing that really excited him. And when he saw that, he said, yeah, that's the airplane for me, and built one. And now I've watched a whole bunch of other people that are the same way. They get excited about it. The thing about this, the Sling, it's going to have, it's all electronic. The engine is not designed for the 1930s. The engine is a modern 21st century design. It's all electronic. It's got dual electronic fuel injection, ignition systems, fuel pumps, everything to make the engine work with modern. It's just like the car out there. The thing doesn't have a prop lever and a mixture lever and a throttle lever. It's just got a throttle. Now you have some modes that you put it in for like takeoff or cruise or climb, but hey, that's just flicking a switch. It's not, you don't have to make a bunch of decisions and look at a whole plethora of gauges trying to figure out the best strategy for making your trip, whether you want to. You just move the lever how much you want to. If you see too much fuel flow, pull the lever back a little bit. It'll go into a more economical mode, less fuel. It's that simple. You don't have to go through all this rigmarole that you do. And, am I going to run it over square or under square, and what manifold pressure, and what prop speed, and what mixture, do I run it lean a peak, rich a peak, blah, blah, blah. You got all these decisions when you're doing these older airplanes where you're the engine management. It's kind of like, I don't know how many people watching this have driven a 1930s car or a 1920s car where you got the spark advance you have to mess with, and you're actually richening the mixture and all these kind of crazy things that you do. We got all this stuff in the 70s, man, and since the 80s or late 80s, early 90s, everything's just been fuel injection, man. You always have to. In fact, most modern cars, you just push a button. Put your foot on the brake, boom, push a button, it fires up. There's no thought from you. You twist a little dial, hit the go pedal. It doesn't matter if it's electric or gas or whatever. They're all the same. You just push a button to start it, and then twist a dial or flip a knob, and then hit the go pedal. So airplanes should be like that. I mean, seriously. So I see this Sling. It's got this engine called a 915IS, Rotax. Now, Rotax has been the actual technological leader in aircraft engines for quite some time. They started building ultralight. Well, they actually were, building engines for snowmobiles, ATVs, things like that. And then they started noticing they're selling a whole lot of snowmobile engines, selling a lot more snowmobile engines than were snowmobiles. So they started to realize that, hey, people are putting these in light aircraft. So they kind of morphed into that business, and now they're I believe they're the largest volume producer of aircraft engines in the world. So I just think this engine is awesome. If I had one near me, I'd just run up and hug it. It's totally electronically controlled. It doesn't require any attention, babying, whatever. And you made it with any modern panel, either MGL, Dynon, or Garmin. And you don't even have to monitor anything. It's got a little thing that strip along the bottom or the side, that wherever you want to put it. And as long as everything's in the green, you don't have to look at it. If something goes wrong, it'll start, putting off lights and putting X's and, all kinds of warning stuff on there. But as long as everything's green, there's nothing to look at. Unlike a Lycoming where you're staring at all kinds of stuff. You're worried about cylinder head temperature and exhaust gas temperature, and you're worried about fuel flows, and you're worried about your manifold pressure, you're worried about your prop speed, all these things. And you have to look at all these plethora of gauges and engine analyzers and all this stuff, and you're constantly engaged doing that stuff instead of worried about where you're going and looking for traffic. That's where I want to be, is where I'm just worried about looking where I'm going and watching for traffic. So anyway, I was watching this thing. My wife said, "You could build one of those," and I said, "Well, you're absolutely right. So you okay with me doing that?" Because she was never excited about me building an airplane, flying around an experimental. And there's some backstories to that. A friend of her son's is a bad story with that. I'm not going to do any of the things he did, so I'm pretty sure I'm not going to end up that situation. But it was a sad story that ended with an NTSB fatality report. So anyway, I'm not going there. I want an airplane that's a tried, true, proven design that people have flown all over the world. Literally, the people from the airplane factory flew one across the Atlantic Ocean over to Oshkosh from over in South Africa. So it literally, and then they went ahead and flew it the rest of the way around the world. The thing has literally gone around the world. It's got a whole bunch of them in production. I think it's really, and they've been building their previous designs, the Sling LSA, the Sling 2, and the Sling 4 for some number of years. So I'm confident that this plane will be quite usable. And there's a number of YouTubers that have them. They love them. They just fly them all over. They think they're great. So that's what I decided I'm going to build. Alright, so my plan is I'm going to go out this coming Friday. Well, actually I will fly out on the 18th of March. Be there the 19th Friday at the airplane factory, and Barry, the sales manager, is going to take me for a test flight in it, and I'll take a tour of the factory, go out there with my wife, make sure she likes the airplane also. We'll do a couple things in LA while we're there, and then fly back, and then I'll be back at work Monday. You know, thankfully, the one good thing about COVID is, man, you can get cheap flights. I get a flight from Nashville to LAX, 99 bucks. I did have to pay for one bag because we're going to be a couple of days, so we're just going to bring one bag. But that's it. 99 bucks a piece in a bag. So that's awesome. Anyway, so hopefully I will have an update and an order put in, because if I like the airplane, I'm going to try to go ahead and order the first kit, the empennage kit. Now there is a lead time, so it's going to be a while before I get started on it. I'm going to convert this very room that I'm standing to you in into my airplane workshop. It's currently a den. We don't really use it. We have a couple computer desks in here, and bookshelves and whatever kind of stuff. I'm just going to move all that stuff out into other rooms, and we will rip up the carpet, put down some vinyl flooring, some durable vinyl flooring, and then I will go ahead and build my airplane, or at least all the piece parts in here, and I'll when I get to the final putting the fuselage together, it'll have to go out in the garage and banish one of the cars from the garage. But I'm excited about this. I'm going to try to film as much of my trip as I can, and I will post it all in here. Thanks for watching.